Hello, and welcome to Everyday Reset. I'm your host, Jessica Bowen, and with me today, we're going to be talking to Warren Gerstein. He owns his own investigation firm, and I'm really excited to have him on so he can tell us all about his journey. And the fact that I've been able to work with this man has been a pleasure and a treat, and he's incredibly talented in his profession. And everybody that works with him seems to really like him. So I'm excited to have you on. Hi, Warren, and welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So Warren, I wanted to kind of introduce who you are. So if you can give me just a little bit of a background on what inspired you to start the surveillance. So you call it SKI. I've always referred to you as SKI, but it's SKI. So can you tell us what SKI stands for, and what was it that inspired you to start SKI Investigation?
Well, SKI stands for Service, Knowledge, and Integrity.
Okay.
But the reason we came up with that name was because when I was growing up, my dad always used to call me Warren.
Okay.
So when I was looking for a name of the company, I wanted to come up with something that kind of went with that. And my younger brother, Elliot, is the one that came up with the acronym.
SKI.
And SKI. So that's where we got SKI. But most people call us C, or we're not picky as long as they call us.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think that's just don't call me late for dinner, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Hold on one second. Oh, wait. There we go. That's better. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, much better. So was there a pivotal moment that led you to this career path before founding SKI Investigation? Did you have any prior experience in surveillance or fraud detection, and or did you enter it from a completely different background?
I worked for a private investigative company when I graduated high school, and I was going to community college. And my primary job was I was a bar spotter.
Okay.
So
like a secret shopper kind of thing?
Yeah, but it was in the adult entertainment industry.
Oh, okay. So what did you do as a bar spotter?
So we would go into the adult entertainment locations, and what would happen is, at that time, the state had what they called like a no grinding law.
Okay.
Meaning the girls couldn't touch you when they were doing dances and so on and so forth. And what would happen is each club would hire this investigative company to go into the other clubs to see if they were doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then ultimately reporting them to the state. So, it was a great job at that time, but
this was right out of high school, so you're like 18.
I was 19.
Of course, it's a great job. You're 19.
Yeah, it was. My now wife, who was my girlfriend then, wasn't thrilled, but
that was going to be my next question. Okay.
Yeah, she wasn't thrilled, but she understood it was work, and it was. It actually got old after a while. I did it for a few years, and then I was going to community college, and I didn't really have a path of study, so I kind of chose criminology because I was working for a private investigator, and I thought maybe that would be something I could look into, or I wanted to go into the FBI or the Secret Service or federal law enforcement or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went to Florida State, I studied criminology, and I worked for a private investigative company in Tallahassee that was, all I did was deliver docs, like to state facilities. But, I was still sticking in that path. And I got a criminology degree, and I saw, I interviewed with the Secret Service. I interned with FDLE for a semester. I thought maybe law enforcement was going to be my path, or the federal side. But I graduated from Florida State and saw an ad in the newspaper. And I know that, in 2024, you can't even imagine the fact that we used to have to actually apply for ads out of a newspaper.
Yeah, you'd circle the ones that you were interested in, and then you'd
Right.
have to either go in and actually introduce yourself. This is for the kids that don't quite understand this. So
Yeah.
there was once a time where you had to get the newspaper, look into the newspaper, highlight what you wanted, and then by foot drop off your resume and apply and introduce
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah, that was a struggle. So okay, continue.
So I saw a job in. I was living in Indian Harbor Beach, which is in Brevard County, and
Okay.
so when I was at Florida State, I was looking for jobs that was in Brevard County. I don't think I ever had the intention of not to move home after college. I know that that's different nowadays, but it was pretty normal then.
Hmm.
So I was looking for a job around then, around in that area, and I saw an ad for a private investigator job, and I got hired, and so I started in the private investigative field in as a field investigator in 1993,
Okay.
and the company was based out of Coral Springs, and so
You had to move back here.
no, my territory was from Vero Beach to Daytona.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I worked as a field private investigator for that company for, I want to say 3.5 years in the field,
Hmm.
and then was promoted to a supervisor, and they moved me down to Coral Springs.
Okay.
And so I worked in that capacity for another, I want to say 2 years, and then we were acquired by Gallagher Bassett.
Oh, all right. That's pretty cool. That's a big name in the work comp field, especially.
You know, what's happening now in our industry is what Gallagher did 25 years ago, where you have these kind of in-house SIUs, or
Hmm.
so, it was very new then. And so I stayed on board. Let me back up. So I was
Hmm.
a supervisor. I had a manager that worked for me who I learned as much of the how I knew I didn't want to be as a manager. So it was just as valuable as if she would have taught me good things.
Oh yeah, that's big.
And I also had a really good vice president based out of Chicago who really kind of brought me under her wing. And even though I wasn't in management, took me to the management trainings and took me to Itasca, Illinois for Gallagher's management training program. They put me through Wicklander. So she did a lot of good things for me to let me be a part of the corporate culture, and I really liked the corporate culture. I was able to conform, and I enjoyed the experience. So you know I was I was successful and enjoying the whole. I was enjoying it. So I'd say around in '97, my father was living in Mexico, and my father was importing chimeneas to the U.S. So we were the first U.S. importer of chimeneas.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So he had a company called Chimenea um, de Mexico, and we sold to Target, like was one of our customers, and so I decided to leave the investigative industry and go work for my father. Let me see. Was that '97? No, that was two. It was '99.
And in case anybody doesn't know what a chimenea is, they're those really cool. You can sit them outside on your back patio. They're like long cylinder little fire pits. They're
Yep.
clay enclosed fire pits, basically.
Yeah,
But they have
they're
the
basically,
long tubes.
yeah.
Okay,
So my
like
father was manufacturing those, and then shipping them container loads only to the U.S. And so he asked me if I wanted to come and work for him, and he decided to open a brick and mortar here in Hallandale.
okay,
And so we opened a 15,000 square foot warehouse in Hallandale, and then we were taking container loads from Mexico and then shipping them out from Hallandale. I had no business experience. I had no clue what I was doing. Um, I'll never forget the first like $300,000 check I got from Target. I just input it into QuickBooks and didn't categorize it to what stores, because each store And so, in QuickBooks, you have to attach it to an invoice.
Yeah.
So I had no experience. I had no idea what I was doing. Looking back on it, it's mind-boggling that what happened there. Unfortunately,
Warren's like 300,000 in my pocket. Okay.
yeah, no. I think my dad was paying me $34,000 a year.
Okay.
But we had no idea what I was doing, and my father, I didn't know at the time, but my father was, ended up getting sick. He had this really bad back pain, and he never took care of himself to begin with. He drank a lot, he smoked a lot, and within 9 months of being in business with my father, he passed away with cancer.
Oh, wow.
So I had no idea. Looking back, maybe I could have kept that business, but I just decided to go back into what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So luckily for me, I was still as a commissioned. I had a few accounts that were really dedicated to me at Gallagher. And so I stayed on and still took work in for Gallagher
Mm-hmm.
and gave them the work, and then they paid me a commission.
While you were doing the Chimenea thing?
Yeah, because
Okay, that's good.
I had a really good relationship, and they really didn't have the relationships that I had, and they just decided to keep me no salary, but just keep me on as commission only,
Okay.
which was fine. So when my father passed, I really didn't have another. I just decided to go back into what I knew, and I knew that I had been in it long enough to know that I wanted to bring service back to the business, because it really was not a service. It was really just kind of a turn and burn, take it in, send it out, take it in, send it out. And so I decided to open my own company, and I went to some of those dedicated clients that were one in particular, and I got their commitment to help me. And not only did they help me, but they also made a call to Gallagher, and and kind of said to Gallagher, "Hey, we want you to kind of support him also." This is 25 years ago,
Well, and
and
Gallagher's very client based too, so they usually go with a lot of their recommendations from clients. So I think that speaks very highly of you.
yeah, and this was back in the day when this was probably one of Gallagher's largest customers, at least in the Southeast.
Okay.
And so I was really blessed with that opportunity. So when I opened SKI, I was living in Miami in a 2-bedroom condo, high-rise building, and I would run it out of my bedroom.
Hmm.
I would drive to the post office to mail out my videos. I mean, that's how we got started. And here we are now, and I
How
still
many
have
years
that
later?
24 this
I
month.
was going to ask if it was 24 or 25.
Still
thought
have
I
that
saw you.
customer to this day.
Well, that's pretty damn cool, I think. And I've having worked for Gallagher, I'm wondering if it was somebody, maybe off air I'll ask you if it was somebody that I worked with. So can you share some of the biggest challenges that you faced when starting your firm? How did you overcome them? What was your challenge?
Yeah, so the biggest challenges I faced, and I had three of them, and I've had three of them to date before I got educated enough to understand. So most small businesses are so focused on the business that's coming in that they're not paying attention to broadening their base and diversifying their business. So you're so busy and consumed because one customer is keeping you busy that you're not really looking for other work, but you're not smart enough to understand that you're way leveraged. And so as an example, AIG was a really large customer of ours at one point, and that was an adjuster from Gallagher.
Mhm.
Ended up going to AIG on the auto side, so we weren't doing any auto work, we were only doing comp. So they brought us into AIG, and we were doing, I want to say, maybe 600,000 a year with AIG. Again, not understanding that that was probably 70% of my business. And when that goes away, you got problems.
Yeah.
So that happened. Yeah, that
So that
happened.
was a learning lesson then.
It was a learning lesson. Yeah, no, it wasn't.
No? You
No,
didn't learn
it
anything
took
from
me.
it?
It took me. Yes, I learned. Um, I learned how to cry. Actually,
That's
um, I mean, you just don't. You don't really. You don't really. Um, it's hard. I didn't learn that time. Um, this customer, same guy, ended up leaving and going to Progressive. Same scenario took me to Progressive. Same
ugh,
numbers. Now, this isn't. We were doing business for several years before this happened, but the Progressive loss was about the same, 600 to 700,000 in revenue, and
wow.
I still didn't. Now, keep in mind at this point, um, I'm living with my wife. I don't have any kids. So yes, it's a large loss, but it's not something that you feel. I mean, I'm living in a 2-bedroom apartment or a condo. It's just something. It took till the third time that I said I would never let this happen again, and
Okay.
then our focus changed. Our focus changed to not to really paying attention to the work and our customer concentration to make sure that our base was broadened enough that we could absorb a loss, because at the end of the day, every customer leaves. It's very rare that you have a customer your whole life or your whole cycle. So you have to be prepared for that to happen. And after the third time, I said I'll never let it happen to me. The third time was in 2016, and I said I'll never let that happen to me. So it took me, I don't know what,
Mm.
15 years to really
Wow.
figure out that.
So you don't think that it was, I mean, you're right. You don't keep a client for a really long time. Like it's very not, I guess the goal is to not have to use investigation. So like on an adjuster side, it's job security for you that people are out there committing fraud and things like that. To me, it's one of those things where I feel if you build a strong enough relationship with a person, and if the company will allow it, like for instance, you and I working together, like we didn't work together at Gallagher, we worked together at Corvell. And then once I moved over to Broadspire, or no, I was with Broadspire first, but anyway, whenever I moved over to another carrier, it would depend on the client as to whether or not it can use you. So you focus more on the client side of it. And if you can't, I guess what I'm asking is if you can't provide like 100% to that same client, then that's why they would leave? Or do they leave because they find, like everybody, they kind of, it has nothing to do with you per se. It's more of like they find a company that maybe they work with, maybe they have a better relationship with, or
Oh,
what do you think the reasons are?
there's so many scenarios. I mean, just to give you a couple, um, we used to do work with SIU management,
Mm-hmm.
which their only customer was uh, they had one major insurance company as a customer, so they were basically like their SIU arm, right? Ameritrust, Amtrust,
Trust. Okay.
Amtrust was their only customer. So Amtrust, so then what happened is Amtrust decided to take all their stuff in house. So that had nothing to do with me. And actually, SIU management ended up closing, and now those people work for other investigative companies.
Yeah.
So that there's an example of somebody who didn't have their base properly allocated. Another example would be Allstate. Maybe 5 years ago, Allstate reduced their vendor panel from 400 to 4.
Hmm.
Again, that has nothing to do with me. That's just what they. So when I say a customer doesn't stay forever, I mean, that's not saying that you can't keep a customer. We have many legacy customers for a long time.
Yeah.
But what will happen is if they're risk managers now and they go on and a new risk manager comes in, they have new relationships. So I almost look at this industry as um, a glass of water that
Okay.
that you build up to, and then eventually the water overflows, and I'm at the top of the water along with all the people that I'm doing business with, and we all eventually are going to go over the side,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have to keep backfilling all the time. So
Okay.
an example is that I'm a little older in the game than, say, for instance, Rob Murphy is, right?
Okay.
So I consider Rob to be one of the guys that's only halfway in the water still. He still has years, because it doesn't go by age. It just goes by how long you've been in this industry and how long you can continue to go to happy hours and to go to I'm so beyond all of that type of stuff. I
Hmm.
just did it for so long that, we're getting ready to be washed over the side. And,
Yeah.
and it's a new generation that's coming up. And it's the same on the client side. I mean, the clients, we have some clients that are getting older. They're gonna retire. Then what?
Yeah.
Right?
I've actually heard this a lot. Like I go to a lot of the meetings and Rob is there a lot of the times and we've had this discussion. We're like the next level of people, like you're right. We're right here in the middle of the glass and we're still kind of attending and hosting those happy hours and building those networking relationships, those relationships that become 10, 15-year, 20-year relationships where once everybody kind of starts getting to the end of their career, not career, but the career lifestyle, like when they're not having to work as hard and they can start to sit back and let others do the work for them. And I completely agree with you on that. Do you think that were there any moments in your career where you questioned whether or not this path was the right one for you?
No.
Oh, nice. Okay.
No, I mean,
You kind of lean back into it every time, right?
yeah, I mean, I faced some big challenges over the years, but I've always been lucky to surround myself with good people, and I never tried to work outside my wheelhouse. I never
Okay.
tried to. I always bounce ideas off somebody before I make a decision.
Oh, I'm
I
like
want to
that.
get I want to
Yeah.
get input because um, I'm not a unilateral decision maker. Now, I do make decisions very quickly. Like if once I make it, I'm pretty solid on it. But
Okay.
I do like outside help. Like, I try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me in the areas where they need to be. That's what
Okay.
I that's I think what has helped me.
Yeah. Well, they say that true success comes in a form of surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And that's why I like, and I think that's why I enjoy talking with you so much. I'm not saying that you and I think alike. I don't want to speak on your behalf like that, but I just find that whenever I have a conversation with you, it's always insightful. It's always knowledgeable and kind of like what you said earlier about the one mentor. So you've had a leader who taught you what not to do, and then you had your mentor who kind of always made sure you had a seat at the table. And I've been using that expression a lot lately, and I find that those are the people I really want to be around. I love those people that are like, you know what, I see something in you, which people say they see things in me all the time, and I don't want to just sit back and be like, oh, okay, well, people see things in me, great. I want to know what to do with that. Like, how can I grow from that? What can I learn from speaking with everybody I come into contact with? And I don't have a direct mentor, but I can tell you that every single person that I talk to, I always try to get feedback from. And I think you and I have had conversations before because it's the same thing. You want to kind of get other people's inputs. And yeah, I will make a decision myself, but I like to hear what other people have to say first, which is kind of why I started this podcast. It's that same having that conversation with people who are like-minded in a sense. And I just, again, like that's why one of the things I respected the most about you, or respect the most about you, is that I'm always able to talk to you. You're a very good man to talk to. You're very insightful and I don't want to say wise because that makes you sound old, but it's like you always you have like a quip about you, something that makes it to where you're not too serious, you're not too dry, you're not too sarcastic. It's like you kind of get to the point and I don't know what I'm trying to say. I can't get to the point, but I don't know. I think it's great and I love the mindset of that.
Well, I've been really, really lucky. I've been really lucky to meet some people in this industry in my 24 years that I can pinpoint, five or six people that impacted me and helped me take this to where it is today. I mean, we were just a Florida based company, um, really small. And in 2006, I was doing business with Burger King. And I was just doing business with Burger King just in South Florida. And I went to lunch with the risk manager, who I'm still friends with today and who I still work with today. And we went to I'll never forget, we went to the Marriott at the end of Blue Lagoon Drive. He always used to love to go to that buffet. We went to the Marriott, and he was complaining about all his vendors and the lack of consistency and all this stuff. And I said, why don't you just give it all to me and I'll figure it out? And at that time, they were in 28 states and had 1,100 corporate stores. And he was like, do you think you could do it? And I said, hell yeah, I can do it. And I said, here's what I need from you. I need 6 months. I need to build a program. I need to build a vendor program. I need 6 months. The work, I can't guarantee the work is going to be great, but I can guarantee that we're going to build something. Within 4 weeks, I had a contract signed with Burger King, which now made us a national company. And the first 6 months were rough. They were rough trying to find vendors, and it was something that I had no experience doing. And I left signing the contract, and I was driving home, and I called my wife and I said, I just signed a contract with Burger King, and I have no idea how I'm going to do it.
It's a fake it till you make it kind of situation, right?
And we were with Burger King until they sold off all their corporate units. Now they're all franchised, but we were with Burger King for many, many great years. And
wow.
Again, just like the contact that took me to AIG and Progressive and then Infinity, this contact took me from Burger King to Vitas to Falk. So I've met some really great people that believed in me and have taken me along and have helped us become who we are. And those are people that I would just you just never forget them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. I love that kind of story. Those are the stories that I love. Like, I just think that that's a great use of building relationships, in my opinion. So what are the future goals for SKI?
Those change all the time, you know.
Okay. Are there any new areas or services that you're looking to explore?
No. We've gone through acquisition talks with all the major players. I just don't know that it's the right fit for me. Being on my own this long, it would be hard for me to conform. So I think for us to sell SKI would require me to leave, because I just don't think that, I might be able to stay on for a year, but I don't need to be held accountable for 9 a.m. Friday conference calls and the level of bureaucracy that goes on in these larger firms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I had to, my kids are still living at home. I think 5 years is what we'd be, within 5 years, I think we'd have to make a decision on what we're going to do. Again, we have a really good business. We have really good employees, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Amen. Yes,
So
I agree.
I think that as things stand now, we've had managed growth. We have had managed growth throughout our 24 years, and we're at a really good place.
That's great. And I kind of want to touch on, you mentioned your kids and your son Sebastian, who I adore. I think he's a great kid, and I actually want to get him on the podcast as well, because I think he's a young entrepreneur, which I'm hearing he must have gotten that from you, because I mean, you seem to be very, I've seen your posts with your kids, and you seem to be a very hands-on father, which is great. You and your wife have been together for a very long time. And so is your influence the reason Sebastian is looking into being this, I don't know, what would you call, he's an entrepreneur. He has his 2 companies now?
Yeah. It's interesting. That's interesting because I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad was a designer and my mom is a designer. So my
Okay.
dad owned his own design firm in Miami for 40 years, and my mom, and they've always been, my parents were, both of them, always hustlers.
Mhm.
So my older brother has his own business. So my younger brother has his own business. And I never thought that it would be here, but you know what happened with Sebastian and Dallas, my other
Is
son.
and Dallas has jobs also?
No, Dallas works for Sebastian
Oh, okay.
because he plays travel soccer. So I I support him in his journey for the last year. For this year, he wants to continue playing travel, and unfortunately, it's 4 or 5 days a week, so he can't really have a conventional job. So I support him in his journey because at the end of the day, kids are going to have 45 years to work.
That's
I
true.
mean, as long as they're good kids that are responsible, I don't heart too much on those things. But with Sebastian and Dallas at the time, Sebastian was probably maybe 11. And I said, I want you guys to spray the weeds in the front yard. And so they sprayed the weeds, and I was like, you know what? Go hit doors. Go start knocking on neighbors' doors. If they give you $10, it's $10. But you got to take out the cost of the material.
Yeah.
You got to pay me for the weed, and then everything over you pay me for the weed, you guys keep. So they did it, and they got 3 or 4 jobs. Of course, neighbors just do that. So I had been decorating for Halloween and Christmas majorly for as long as I can remember.
Weren't you in
And
part of the competition that was going around the city?
yeah, I entered
Okay.
that twice. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and as Sebastian got older, probably 12 or 13, he started helping me
Hmm.
to do the decorating. And I was like, okay, it was nice to have help. And then I think he's 19, so he started when he was around 15. I said to him, why don't you pitch some neighbors about doing their lights?
Hmm.
They were, again, anything he got was great. And he got like 10 customers, 10 jobs or whatever. And then the next year we started advertising on Cooper City Buzz, and he had like 45 customers. And then, so now he's to the point where it's a legitimate seasonal business. Now, the car washing and the level of detail that he does in that, I don't know where he got from. I've never washed my own, like I don't wash my own car. I've never been a car wash guy, but he has just I don't, he's just in it.
He's incredibly meticulous.
Yeah, I mean, to a detriment when it comes to he's
I
had
won't
some
say that, but yes.
he's had some customers tell him, "Listen, I want you to do my car, but you take too long."
Well, at least he's
So,
aware of it.
yeah, he's like, "Look, and I'm helping him with his business and his ideas is that we'd rather have less customers at a higher price than more customers at a lower price
Hmm.
because generally the rule of thumb is the more you're willing to spend, the less dirty your car is.
I'd like to think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we he has learned a lot, and he's a hard worker, and I don't know where it came from, but
It's obvious he got it from his parents because you I think that there's definitely something to be said about active parents. Um I like to consider myself a hustler also. I've never just had one job. I can have a job, but I will always have painting or I'll always have something else to keep me busy. It's just how I am. My parents came from my dad came from Germany. His mom took over a restaurant she had no business taking over. She didn't know anything about it. He then took it over. He was also a DJ. Like there was my dad had his whole entrepreneur thing. My mom opened her own alligator farm. She's always worked for herself and in a line of something that she's always loved. And she paints as well. So I think that when you see your parents doing that, um, you can take the qualities that you see from them, but like my parents were not very successful at what they did. And so I took that and I said, well, I'm always going to be ahead of the game. Like I want to have success at the end of every day. I want to know what I'm successful at. And you get that by watching parents, whether it's good or bad, it's kind of just learning a lesson. Everything's a lesson, right?
Right.
When you are a hands-on parent, the children tend to look to you and they watch you more closely because they can see that you're a respected person or a person to be respected. And I think that that's what the boys are looking at you. They're looking at your wife. They kind of see how far you've come, the fact that you and your wife have been together for so long, like all of those things, they're getting imprinted in your kids' heads one way or another. And I think that that's commendable. And
Yeah.
so what advice would you give? I know that I've kept you on for a pretty long time, but what advice would you give to someone who's interested in starting their own firm in surveillance and in investigation in this industry? Would you tell them to stay with work comp? Would you say auto? What would your advice be to them?
In 2024,
Sure.
I
No,
would say,
we're coming into 2025. Let's move on to the next year.
I think it's a tough business.
Mm.
I think it's a really tough business to break into. It's very cliquey. It has changed. It has changed in the last 5 years, 7 years. The level of consolidation that exists in our industry right now. All the big companies are looking to buy companies that are doing, 5 million in revenue with $1 million in EBITDA. All the big companies are looking to grow. So it makes it very challenging for the smaller companies to survive. So I don't know that I could consciously recommend somebody coming new into this industry now. It has changed just dramatically. The industries I think currently that are exploding are the service-based businesses, plumbers, electricians. Those are things that will never go away. And what I've learned in South Florida is, and how we run our business is, we are a client-driven business. That's it. It's about service. The one thing that I noticed, like I said, my younger brother has a business. He's had a grout cleaning business for 15 years. My son Sebastian's business, I would like to think is more organized and focused. And he's service oriented. If he's going to be late, he lets you know. It's about communication at the end of the day, and I think that's where you can be successful in the service business. You have to understand the customer is first. I used to always tell this to the girls in my office. They come in a shitty mood. They have a look on their face. And phone rings and it's good. And I said, listen, you need to smile when the phone rings, because when the phone stops ringing, you don't have a job. So what I want you to do is, I don't care how shitty your day is, smile when you answer the phone. And when you smile and answer the phone, it is a completely different voice that comes across.
It's true.
And so I said, without those customers, there is no job. So smile. That's the most important thing, is be happy that your customers are calling. Don't look at your customers as a pain in the ass. Yeah, a lot of them are, but I don't care.
Oh, hold on. I think we're good. Are you still there? Oh, Warren. Oh no. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had a slight technical get up, a little hitch in our giddy up. He's back. It's okay. That's all right. So wait, you were saying make sure that they smile?
Yeah, make sure, when you're in a service business, be happy the customer's calling. There's so many times you call to book an appointment and you get someone who's upset or angry, or, there's a lot of choices out there. There's a lot of choices. And you want the customer to call you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you have to think about the position that they're in as well. Like, they're not calling you because they're having a great day. They're calling you because something's going on and they need to have it further looked into.
Right.
So I completely understand that. And even if they're McDonald's workers or working at a doctor's office, whatever, if you're having to deal with people, nobody wants to deal with somebody who's got like a mug on their face and they don't really care.
Yeah.
You can hear when somebody's smiling on the other end. You really can. So I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope I was insightful.
I think you were. I'm really thankful that you did this, and I know that you were really busy, and I know that I've kept you on here pretty long, and you have a business to run, so I don't want to keep you much longer, but I do want to say thank you. And if anybody wanted to reach out to you for investigation or for advice, would you be open to it?
Sure. I try to give advice. We deal with a lot of small vendors all over the country, and I'm trying to, help them be more prepared than I was, because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, nobody told me anything. I mean, it was literally like I figured it out as I moved along. And I made a lot of mistakes. Luckily, I didn't make any catastrophic mistakes, but made a lot of mistakes. But
Yeah.
also did a lot of good things and have a lot of good people. So that's great.
Well, you have to know what a good person is to look for the right people. And I think that if you're the right kind of boss, you're going to look for the right kind of people.
Yep.
And I think that you are a testament to that. So thank you
Oh,
so much.
thank you.
No, my pleasure. All right. Well, how can they reach out to you if they want to reach out to you?
They could email me,
What's your email address?
wgerstein at skiinv.com.
Okay. And if anybody's listening and you would like to reach out to Warren, you can always reach out to me as well if you have my phone number, because the one person that's listening probably has my phone number. And then if you have if you're following me on podcast or Spotify or Instagram, feel free to leave me a message. I'll be sure to give it to Warren, because not only is he somebody that I have the pleasure of working with, but I also am technically a neighbor. So I'll stalk him if you need me to. So Warren, thank you so much. And I really, really appreciate it. And you can share this with all of your friends, your coworkers, whatever you want to do. All
Awesome.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later.